Welcome back to Z-Speed, and thanks for tuning back in. Today we'll be installing aftermarket rims and tires on our 10th Gen Civic Si. We're running stock suspension on this Si, so if you're ever wondering how to get flush fitment on your Civic with stock suspension, then this is the video for you. So just stay tuned. So I purchased these rims and tires from Fitment Industries. I've had great results from previous purchases, and I'm not sponsored by these guys, so these are my own opinions. But you can see they come very well packaged with plenty of foam and cardboard between each rim. 2 rims per package here, and after I opened everything up, there was 0 scratches and or damage to these tires and rims. So I will link the exact size and tire setup that I've purchased below in case you want to purchase the exact same one. But yeah, these guys are very professional. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is for a stock suspension setup. Now, in the future, I might go with some lowering springs, just take it down just a little bit, but everything else is going to remain stock. This is my daily driver, and I don't want to have to worry about dodging debris and stuff like that in the road, you know, tire casings and small pieces of whatever debris. I don't have to worry about dodging those, so I'm going to keep this thing stock. And I did want to flush fitment, and that's what I got with this setup. So we're going to talk about the tires and rims set up right now. As you know, these are Inky rims. These are TS5 in an 18 by 8.5 with a plus 38 offset. Now I decided to go with Toyo tires, 245/40 18s, which are wider than the stock configuration, which are at 235/40 18. And you could probably get 255/40 18s on these without any rubbing. These are Extensa HP, which are all season tires, and they're directional tires. And directional tires will give you a little bit quieter road travel, so it's not as much noise in the cabin. They're very grippy, and I'm looking for some really good cornering tires. So these are expensive at $200 a tire, but you could probably get some Vercella Strata 2s for about $100 a tire. Those are nice too. Now, before we mount these rims and tires, I'm going to go ahead and protect the rims. First, I'm going to spray them down with some quick detailer, get them nice and clean, and then I'm going to use my favorite wax on these to protect them from brake dust and debris. Now, Fitment Industries does actually ceramic coat these if you want. I thought it was a little bit pricey. I think it was like $130 or $140 to ceramic coat all 4 of your rims at the factory before they ship them out. I've had pretty good results with just wax only, but if you do have ceramic coating, of course that would be even better. So I'm just going to clean these up real well, and then I'm going to use my favorite wax from Chemical Guys here to protect these. I found that if you can wash and wax your rims at least about twice a year, that it really cuts down on any damage from brake dust or any debris from the road. So, you know, if you have the time and if you want to, definitely go ahead and wax your rims, clean and wax your rims before you install these. It'll really help prolong the finish. So let's take a second and talk about the stock rim and tire fitment here. We're very close to being flush. Believe it or not, Honda did real well with the stock rim and tire setup. You know, we're just lack just a little bit to being totally flush as it is now. These rims and tires are a little heavier than your aftermarket rims. Up top you got some camber, so it's not quite flush up top, but yeah, it's pretty close. You can see if we look at it from this view, it's not quite flush, but very close to it. We're running 18 by 8 rims, and we're running 235/40 18 as far as the tire fitment goes for these rims. So Honda did do pretty well. These rims and tires are just a bit heavy, and we're not quite flush, of course. So we're going to be able to get that with these aftermarket rims and tires. Let me throw that little yardstick up on here and see how close we are to being flush. Very close, especially around the middle of the rim, but as you go up, the camber kind of tucks the rim inside the wheel well. So yeah, we're real close, and with our aftermarket rims, we'll definitely achieve that. But yeah, not quite there. Very close though. Good try, Honda. Okay, before we swap out the rims and tires, I did want to show you what the stock rim and tire setup with the stock suspension look like as far as clearance goes. So this is the front suspension, and you can see the rim right there, right next to the strut, very tight up there. Not a lot of play. Honda already kind of maxed it out. It's not completely maxed out, but it's pretty close up there. I'd say you're just under about 2 inches, and I did measure it after I installed my new rim, and I'll show you those results towards the end of the video. But right here, we don't have a lot of wiggle room. 8.5 will definitely fit as far as 18 by 8.5. 18 by 9.5 is going to be pretty tight. I couldn't tell you because I haven't seen anybody else put it in 9.5 and then film this part where the suspension meets the rim. So I couldn't tell you for sure, but you might end up needing a 5mm spacer if you're going to run the 18 by 9.5s. I couldn't tell you for sure though. Okay, let's go ahead and swap these rims and tires out. But before we do that, or as we do that, I want to talk to you about the OEM Hubcentric rims versus aftermarket lug-centric rims. And I'll show you the difference between the two and what you need to do to mount these correctly. Before we throw these on though, look, we do definitely have a size difference. They fit real well, so don't worry about that, but you can see they're much meatier and beefier than the OEM set, so that's pretty awesome. But here is the hub ring right here, and I'm going to take a wire wheel to that and clean that up before I put the new ones on. But there is a nice little ring around this hub right here that lines up exactly to your OEM rims. So that is what you call a hub-centric rim, and you just pop it right in here and it centers the rim perfectly for you, versus aftermarket rims where that hole is now too large to fit on that ring on your hub, and you'll have to center your rims with the lugs themselves. So that's hub-centric, and the aftermarket rims are lug-centric, meaning you'll have to center them with the lug nuts themselves, unless you get hub rings. And I'll be talking about the Hubcentric rings in a minute, but let's talk about what does come with the rims. And you get some fitment directions and a bunch of stickers, which is great. And you also get the center caps, which is really nice. And these are the stock inky center caps that come with this inky rims. That's really nice because sometimes you'll purchase aftermarket rims and you'll have to purchase the center caps separately. So at least we get the center caps with our rims. Now let's talk about aftermarket lug nuts. These are SR45Rs, and I'll leave a link below. But you're gonna need aftermarket lug nuts to fit in your aftermarket rims. These are made by Mutiki. These are extended open-end lug nuts with a rotating seat right here. So what this rotating seat does is it does not scratch up your rim. Once you go to tighten them down, it'll swivel. And then it'll tighten up at the very end, and it does very little damage to your aftermarket rims. That's why I like those. You're not going to be able to use your stock lug nuts. They're too short and stubby, as you can see right here, and they're not going to fit into your aftermarket rims. So you'll have to purchase some aftermarket lug nuts. They don't have to be open end like these. They can be closed end. So the main advantage of running open-end lug nuts would be for future use of extended wheel studs. And you're going to use an extended wheel stud if you're going to be using spacers or in racing applications, let's say track applications where they're a little more hardy and they can handle a lot more heat and a lot more torque, for cornering and stuff. But usually people will use extended wheel studs because they're planning on running spacers to get like a lot more poke or something like that. So that's when these lug nuts will come in handy. But if you do run these lug nuts on regular wheel studs, you will need little wheel caps so you don't get water inside, and that'll cause rust, so you can cap these off and keep everything nice and dry. Now it's time to mount the rims and tires. I'm going to show you how to do this with the lug nuts only first, and we'll talk about the Hubcentric ring later. Before you put this rim on, of course, you've got to put your center cap on. You can't do it after you mount the tire. So you just pop it in place, line it up just the way you want it. And then there is a little aluminum ring that actually pops onto the inside of this little center cap, and that'll keep it affixed to the rim so nothing goes flying out once we start rolling. So it's pretty simple to do that. Line that up just the way you want it, and now we can go ahead and throw our rim onto the hub here. I was a little concerned at first about the fitment, so that's why I'm looking inside the front wheel well here, looking at the fitment compared to the front strut there. Okay, to center the rim with the lug nuts only, you're going to need to place all 5 lug nuts on loosely before you can get started. And oh yeah, don't forget to remove that plastic covering on your center cap. You won't look good without it, so get rid of that. And now we're ready to center this rim with the lug nuts. There's some useful information on the back of this carton here. We're going to use this star pattern to tighten down our lug nuts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, otherwise known as a star pattern. And we're going to use that technique when we're tightening. We're also going to tighten between 75 and 85 foot-pounds, but Honda recommends 80 foot-pounds for the Civic Si. So that's what we're going to use, 80 foot-pounds for torque. And it just is telling you to use the supplied socket that comes with your lug nuts. And of course we're going to do that. So now we're ready to start tightening the rim down. Okay, so we're at the point where we have all of our lug nuts loosely tightened by hand, and what we're going to do now at this point is start to rotate the rim and tire and tighten the lug nuts as we rotate it. Now, I didn't actually get this part on film. I thought I had filmed it. Sorry about that, but I'll be able to explain the concept. So you've got all your lug nuts on, and what you're going to do is turn your rim and tire about a half turn or a quarter turn. Then you're going to check the lug nuts again, and you're going to tighten them up like I'm doing here. So then you'll rotate the rim and tire again about a half turn, and then you'll go and check all your lug nuts, and you'll find that they've loosened up a little bit. By rotating the tire, what happens is you end up getting some slack or some movement in the rim, and you can tighten the lug nut by hand again. So what you'll do is just keep rotating the tire half turn, tightening the lug nuts, rotating, tightening, rotating, tightening, until you get to a point where you're no longer able to hand tighten the lug nuts. At that point, your rim and tire is now centered by using the lug nuts only. You definitely don't want to do this with an impact gun. You have to do it by hand to get this thing centered correctly. So that's why it's preferred to use a Hubcentric ring, because this takes a little time and effort. It's not that hard at all. It's not hard at all, but definitely a tire shop's not going to do this for you. So it's better to go ahead and purchase some Hubcentric rings to place on your car, so you don't have to worry about somebody misaligning your rim and tire because you don't have those Hubcentric rings. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it to 80 foot-pounds using a star pattern, and you're ready to go. But next I'm going to talk about Hubcentric rings. So I purchased my Hubcentric rings from Stance Magic. It's a very popular Hubcentric ring on Amazon. They've got all kinds of sizes, and so it should match any type of rim that you get. They come in plastic or aluminum, and they recommend aluminum if you're going to be using your car on the track, just because the hub can heat up a little bit and could cause your plastic hub-centric rings to melt. I went ahead and chose aluminum, even though I'm not going to be running on the track, because if I can get a metal hub-centric ring over a plastic one, I will do that every time. And it's only like $4 or $5 more, so why not go with the aluminum? Each of these has the size stamped on the side, just in case you're wondering, and everything's measured in millimeters here. So for the Honda Civic, the hub-centric ring inner diameter needs to be 64.1. Sorry about the focus. Let's see if there it goes. 64.1 will be the part that fits over the hub on your vehicle, and that's the size you need for, it should be for all Civics, 64.1 millimeters. Now, as far as the outer diameter, the 72.6, that's specific for the Enkei TS5s. So if your rim is going to be a different rim, you're going to need to find the exact measurement and then buy the right size hub ring for your rim. But this is the right hub-centric ring for the Enkei, and the 64.1 is going to fit all Civics. So you'll have to do a little bit of research if you have a different size rim or a different brand rim, because I'm sure that all the rims are going to be a little bit different. But good news is that Stance Magic has lots of different sizes, so you should find a hub-centric ring that fits whatever size rim you have. Now, this is a preferable way to go versus centering your rim with the lugs, because anytime you want to take your car into the shop, or let's say that you have to get a new tire put on or something, they're not going to take the time to center your rim with the lug nuts. And if you've got a hub-centric ring on there, it makes it super simple. They just pop it on, tighten it, and you're good to go. So you just saw me check the fitment on my hub, and this hub-centric ring fit perfect. But the preferable way to place these on to your car is to put them into the rim first. So you can see I've got a seamless fit right here. That thing fits like a glove. So now I can just pick up the whole rim and place it right onto the hub, and it'll self-center. No more worries about, trying to do it with the lug nuts. If you want to take your car to the tire shop, you don't have to worry about them messing that up either. So this is the preferable way. I would highly recommend that you purchase these, but you can do it with the lug nuts only. If you don't get these things centered perfectly, what will happen is you could get some vibration or some road noise. So that's definitely something you don't want, and these things are pretty cheap, so pick some up. So now that we've got all four of the rims and tires mounted, let's go ahead and check the fitment out. I'm very happy with the fitment here. It's pretty much perfect for what I'm looking for. Everybody's got their own idea of what good fitment looks like, but now if you were wondering what a plus 38 offset looks like on these 18 by 8.5s, now you know it's right there at flush. So that's exactly what I was looking for. Now, if you're looking for a little more poke, let's say you want a little more stancy look, I think the plus 35 offset would be perfect for you to achieve that. It would definitely allow the rim to stick out. And I'm thinking now that the 9.5 might actually work, the 18 by 9.5 for your car. We're going to look at the suspension in a second, but look at the rear. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but we're running a square setup here. That's a preferable setup for the Honda Civic. And you can see it's another flush fitment in the rear. So this is just exactly what I was looking for. So now you know exactly what to expect if you get this tire and rim set up, and where you can tweak it and change it up a little bit. Man, that looks cool right there. Now that did not happen with the stock setup. So now I've got a little bit of the tire sticking out in the rear, and that looks really nice. So as far as the turn angle goes, you can see there's not a lot of room left over, but there is absolutely no rubbing. I've taken it out and I've hit the off ramps going pretty fast, and there's no chafing, no rubbing, nothing at all. You can see I've got a little more room. You might be able to get a little bit bigger tire in there, but not much larger, like we discussed earlier. I'm just real happy with the fitment there, and no rubbing at all. So now you know that this setup will not rub. And the only thing, a lot of people will say, well, you know, you got a lot of room between the fender and the tire, and you know, we talked about that earlier. I'm looking for more of a stock setup, but I might throw a pair of springs on there and just take it down like 3/4 of an inch to an inch, but no more, because I don't want to have any issues with road debris like we talked about earlier. And I'm really happy with this setup. So now you know what to expect if you get this size room, and you know where you can change things up if you want a little bit different look. Okay, now we're going to look at the front suspension compared to the new rim and tire setup, and we're going to see how much room we've got left to play with here. And there's more than I expected. It's a lot closer to the OEM setup than I thought. I took a little piece of wood because I wanted an exact measurement, and I stuck it between the rim and tire and the strut here, and this is the exact measurement I came up with. A little less than 1.5 inches is what you have as far as wiggle room here. So you might be able to get an 18 by 9.5 with or without a little bit of rubbing or chafing. I'm not sure. There's a guy named Tony Costello who's running something like that. I'll leave a link to that video below. But I'm really happy with the way this setup works for me in my daily driving. So now you know what to expect. And if you get this setup, and you know where your wiggle room is if you want to go with something a little bit different. So I hope this video helped you out on your journey to finding the perfect fitment on your 10th Gen Civic. And if it did, don't forget to give me a big old fat thumbs up, because it really helps the channel out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We put out a new video every month, and I don't want you to miss out. So until next time, you know what to do. Just keep on repairing.